Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Redman and welcome to Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we discuss everything to do with Christian Theology books that might be on a reading list for a seminary course or for a bachelor's or master's degree in theology or in biblical studies. Whatever it is, whether you've just seen a book on your own pastor's bookshelf or you've looked at something online and you want to know if it's any good, we try to talk about books in sequence here on the channel. And if you like what we have to say, please remember to give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe and click on the bell if you haven't done already, because it helps the algorithm. And also, why not leave a comment? Because there are things that we can answer that we maybe don't need a whole video to deal with. And other things which I can politely say to you, I'm sorry, I haven't a clue. Whatever it is, I hope that we can help you today. Today I want us to talk about primarily one new commentary which is out in what in itself is a fairly new series of commentaries. This commentary is by Carolyn Sharp, and it's called Micah, Introduction and Commentary, and it's the third in the series of Illuminations commentaries. Now, I discovered this in 2014, I think. This Job 1 to 21 by C.L. Xiao was published in 2013, 971 pages on the first half of Job, and I absolutely love this commentary. I would go as far as to say, as I personally think it's the best commentary on the first half of Job. It really is excellent. That isn't to say there aren't some other very good ones, but I have been watching as other ones have been brought out, and in fact the last one to come out in 2021, note the 7 or 8 year gap there, is the 466 pages Jonah. And this, I also have to say, really set a similar standard to the one on Job. And I really think these two commentaries are brilliant. So I have come to this with a very positive attitude. I've only had it for about 2 weeks, and I've done my best to sort of plough through it as much as I can. What I would say about Carolyn Sharp is that she's from Yale. She has a tremendous catalogue of books that she has written. She's written widely, for example, on the subject of irony in the Old Testament. Not only has she written a book on that, but she's also edited, I think, a series of books on the subject as well. So Carolyn Sharp seems to be good. She's had some excellent other people write about this book, although perhaps she isn't in with the same crowd of people that maybe you might see us maybe mentioning on this channel. So just to sort of give you a quick look at this, I want to just mention irony first, because she goes through a number of literary words and talks about how they will be used, like hyperbole, lineation, metaphor, rhetorical questions, and so on and so forth. But she says this about irony. Irony suffuses the prophetic discourse in Micah. Verbal irony works with the complex interplay of the said and the unsaid. As I have suggested elsewhere, interpretation of a given ironic text will be more persuasive to the degree that it can account for multiple axes along which the unreliable said may be seen to single incongruity, and the extent that it takes seriously the particulars of the said in its construction of the unsaid. She also says this: ironic communication works to persuade us of something that is subtler, more complex, or more profound than the apparent meaning of that which has been ostensibly said. I think that she infers irony on a number of pages in Micah, and I have to say I found that very interesting. I found it made me think a little bit differently about some pages. And I think that it's always helpful when someone introduces you to an idea that they believe is in use. She also mentions a little bit about feminist theology, and she also talks a little bit, well, very, very subtly about queer theology as well. And I have to say, I wasn't really engaged with some of these ideas, but she mentions that she has other resources available on these issues, which I have to stress are not emphasised strongly in this work. She talks about ecological justice, which I did read a fabulous book by Richard Bauckham on ecology and Christianity. And Richard Bauckham, I think, has done a great work in that field. But here, Carolyn Sharp quotes John Calvin and says, "When we behold the entire order of nature, we see nothing, high or low, that is not resplendent with God's glory. Yet at the same time, nothing has escaped corruption. Its corruption is the fruit of our sins. Our own pollution has infected the sky and the earth, and although God created everything good, there remains nothing which has not been corrupted or cursed." And he goes on to say this is the point that Micah is making here. And I think that it's interesting that Calvin had the forethought to mention such issues, and I don't think that she is being woke when she is talking about ecological issues either. I think actually she is being very studious. There's a great section, Micah, in Jewish tradition, in Midrashic interpretation, all of which is helpful, and I think these things here on the page to help us open our minds a little bit and to see what might be being said that is helpful. Taking us to chapter 6, which there's this section in chapter 6 that we all know really, and sometimes we look at Micah and say, what is there in Micah that I can think of? And if we can think of anything, we tend to think of this, that what is good, what does Yahweh require of you? To do justice, to cherish fidelity, and so on. Well, what she says here is making rhetorical questions is important because it heightens the dramatic tension that suffuses this dialogue. And she quotes other commentators. Actually, she's very good at quoting other commentators. But she defines to do justice, saying justice involves seeking equity, ensuring that power is not misused, holding perpetrators of unjust action to account, and pursuing vindication and reparations for those who have been unfairly harmed. She goes into that in length, talking about cherishing fidelity. Again, she goes into that in depth, again quoting other commentators. And I have to say that her section on this simple verse, really, that some people wear as a T-shirt message, which is a very good message to have on a T-shirt, but she has really expounded this, and over 2 or 3 pages, I believe, does it justice. I really liked, though, what she said about to walk humbly with your God. She uses the translation to proceed humbly with your God. And she says, you shall be modest by walking in the fear of your God, which is her translation. To proceed humbly reflects 2 decisions: no longer to use walk in an idiomatic sense of daily comportment that has become archaic in contemporary spoken and written English, and no longer to privilege the metaphorical vehicle of ambulation in light of an objection raised by advocates in the disability community that the expression can be experienced as ableist and alienating. So that just sort of gives you a little bit of insight to where she's going in some of these areas. In some respects, I think she looks in different ways to other people I have read. And I think in general, she has something to say, and I like it very much. Would I say this is my favourite commentary on Micah, like I say about the Job 1 to 21 version by Sau, which I think is outstanding? Is this as good as the one on Jonah, which again I think is up there in the top two, certainly? No, I wouldn't actually put it that high, but I would say to you, if you are studying Micah, let's say you're preparing a sermon series for the autumn on Micah, and you really want to look in depth into it, I would really advise you getting hold of a copy of this and reading it, because it is very eye-opening. And what it will say about some items, you might sort of turn your nose up at. But in the main, I think you will find that she is very challenging. And she certainly has a very high standard and perspective on the Word of God, which is really what it's all about. So, when it comes down to Micah, if I'm brutally honest, I still think that James Nagalski's Book of Micah, which came out a year ago, 2024, and is 258 pages, Nagalski is a leading scholar on the Book of 12, and very much so on Micah. And I think the NICOT, New International Commentary on the Old Testament, for me, I stress, remains my favourite commentary on the Book of Micah. It to me is my first port of call. It's the first commentary I would pick up. Will I continue to pick up Sharp? Yeah, probably will. But whereas I think Nagalski's treatment is slightly better, I would suggest that his track record in the Book of 12 is absolutely the best that's out there at the moment. He really does have a lot to offer. So I would suggest to you, Nagalski is still going to be my top choice. But would I include Sharp in my top 5? Yes, I definitely would. I think the series of Illuminations commentaries has yet a lot to show us. And of the 3 volumes that are out, they all are very, very, very good. I'm not sure that anything is probably going to be as outstanding as the first one, but I am waiting for the second volume, which is due imminently, I am told, and I look forward to receiving that. So that's my view. A new commentary by Carolyn Sharp, Mike in the Illumination series, a series which is evidently brilliant. They're published by Erdmans, by the way, and they really are very good hardback books. It isn't changing my view about what I think is the best commentary I have, but all the same, it is definitely something that offers some unique points, particularly some of its literary excursions, and particularly its look at irony. So I hope that helps you. If it has, please remember to leave us a thumbs up. Please leave a comment below. I do try to get back to everyone, but I do want to let you know that everything you do and interact with me about this channel is a godsend to me. It's a blessing, and I really, really appreciate your support. So until next time, everybody, God bless you, and I just have this one word to say, which is bye.